Hello students, I'm Imkong Tenlapungan, an anthropologist from Department of Anthropology, University of Delhi. Today I'm going to speak on the module Review of Data Collection Methods from the paper Research Methods and Fieldwork. Well, the learning objectives of the module are to understand the different types of anthropological data, to discuss various data collection methods. Now, as we all know that the field of anthropology is concerned with the exploration of the complexity of human interactions, as a research discipline, anthropology combines humanist and social science strategies. The process of collection of in-depth data and how such data of human culture and behavior is collected is what sets anthropology apart from other disciplines. Anthropologists immerse themselves in the rich data, which is largely qualitative, and try to find emerging themes providing valuable insights. Research in anthropology can be carried out through various approaches like comparative, cross-cultural, historical, or ethnographic. Irrespective of the approach used, the success of the research depends upon the data gathered for it. Needless to say that data collection during the study needs to be clear and correct. Now let us see what is anthropological data. Data is a basic unit of research. It refers to any distinct pieces of information collected for research purposes in raw or unorganized form. It can be in the form of numbers or symbols and may represent ideas or conditions. If a researcher fails to collect accurate and appropriate data, the findings of the study are found to be misleading and the research will become questionable. To overcome such difficulties, a researcher should include appropriate methods of data collection. Before we move on to data collection methods, let us first have a look at the types of data that a researcher can come across during data collection. Now, depending upon the source of the data, they can be of two types: primary data and secondary data. Primary data is collected by the researcher directly from the field or the participants of the research. It is the first-hand information gathered by the researcher himself or herself. Secondary data is collected by someone other than the researcher. The second-hand source could be a person or an agency. Depending upon the nature of data, they can be of two types. We have quantitative data and qualitative data. Now, when the data is expressed in the form of numbers like cost of goods or population numbers, etc., it is called quantitative data. This data is analyzed using statistical methods. The research studies such as surveys, census, etc., that use quantitative data as the sole means of data are called as quantitative researches. Now, when the data is expressed in the form of words like customs, rituals, description of material or non-material culture, etc., it is called as qualitative data. This data is analyzed through qualitative methods. Research studies that use such data as in case studies are called qualitative researches. It is not uncommon in anthropology to find researches that use both qualitative and quantitative data, and they are called as qualitative-quantitative mixed research. Now let us discuss the common anthropological data collection methods. There are generally 5 types of methods, namely observation, questionnaires, interviews, schedules, textual or content analysis. Let us discuss each of it in detail. Now, observations form a crucial part of anthropological research. Observation can be defined as the precise viewing and recording of phenomenon as occurring in nature. Observation is of two types. First, we have participant observation. Participant observation is the one in which the researcher participates actively with the group under investigation. The researcher in some cases may conceal one's identity, that is, total participant observation, while in other cases, the identity of the researcher is revealed to the group, that is quasi-participant observation. Now, in participant observation, the observer is a part of the social events she or he is observing and generally lives and participates in day-to-day activities of the group as a full-fledged member. The observer ensures that the normal life of the group is not disturbed. The observer observes the behavior of the members of the community and tries to understand the interactions and relationships between them. The researcher carries out a holistic study of the social group or the social unit. Now, the observer needs to take certain precautions as well, such as acting in a responsible manner, seeking no special status, trying to maintain as much objectivity as possible in spite of being in close proximity of the observed group. The skills and expertise of the observer are of utmost importance in the success of the participant observations. Now, the second one is the non-participant observation. Non-participant observation is the one in which the observer does not actively participate in the activities of the group and observes the social unit as an outsider. The identity of the observer can be hidden or revealed as per the circumstances. However, the non-participant observer remains totally passive and detached from the group under study. Non-participant observation gives an opportunity of enhanced objectivity to the observer as being at a distance from the community, giving him or her considerable space for viewing and evaluation of the interactions of the group in a better way. However, the shortcoming of non-participant observation is that the group members might consider the researcher as a stranger and may not reveal their true attitudes or feelings, etc., to him or her. Now, let us see questionnaires. A questionnaire is considered to be the main technique of data collection in the survey method. It is an instrument that helps a researcher obtain information about personal life, feelings, and expectations, etc. of the respondent. A questionnaire consists of a set of questions in a particular form and order, and the respondent is expected to fill up the form him or herself. The types of questionnaires in a questionnaire are: there are two types of questions generally included in a questionnaire. There are open-ended and closed-ended questions. Now, open-ended questions are not followed by any specific answer. The respondent is free to write any response he or she wants. For example, which method do you think helps develop reflective teachers in the best way? That can be an example of an open-ended question. Closed-ended questions are followed by specific answers, and the respondents are expected to choose any of the answers. For example, dig anyone. Scientists are always objective and they never let their personal opinions affect their research in any way. Strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree. Now, closed-ended questions can also be in the form of yes and no. A researcher may develop a questionnaire with either of the two types of questions or a mixture of both. Types of questionnaires. Now, questionnaires can be structured, semi-structured, unstructured, or pictorial. Structured questionnaires are those where the questions are prepared in advance and the wordings and order of the questions remain the same irrespective of the respondents. Unstructured questionnaires are those where questions are modified and adjusted according to the need of the situation with the aim to collect as much information as possible. Semi-structured questionnaires are those where there is a mixture of structured and unstructured questions. The pictorial questionnaire are those where the alternatives to the questions are in the form of pictures. Now let us discuss about the characteristics of a good questionnaire. The development of a good questionnaire is a tough task. The questionnaire should be self-explanatory, the print and layout should be good, the items should be analytical, clear, short, and understandable. Questions that are threatening or embarrassing should be avoided. The questions should be according to the respondent level. Method of administration and the sample of respondents should be selected with careful thinking. The limitations of a questionnaire. The use of a questionnaire also has some drawbacks. It is not possible to collect information of less educated or illiterate people. The response rate may be low, leading to a limited amount of data for analysis. Misinterpretation of questions is also possible in the absence of the researcher himself or herself. The reliability of a questionnaire is of great importance for the quality of the data collected. Now let us see what an interview is. An interview can be defined as a conversation with a purpose. It is a process of social interaction. Interview is a useful procedure for collecting data through a face-to-face interaction between the researcher or the interviewer and the interviewee. Just as in the case of the questionnaire, the interviewer asks certain questions, but unlike in questionnaire, in the interview there is a space for developing new questions to probe a matter further. An interview is a direct method of data collection, however, it is also a very time-taking one. It is done usually when the sample is less or to find out about information that could not be collected from the questionnaire or on individuals selected after the use of a questionnaire to understand the responses in depth. An interview can be used for all segments of the population. It is used to study the events that are not open to observation, such as past events. Interview provides an interesting way to find out the reactions of the individuals in different situations. Now let us see the types of interview. Interviews are categorized into two types based on the people involved. Individual interview. Now, an individual done with a single person to get information or find out their views and opinions is called a personal interview or individual interview. Individual interviews use open-ended questions and aim to apprehend the mental and the experiential world of the interviewee. Participants in such an interview are able to tell their stories uninterrupted in a coherent manner and without any peer pressure. The interview is generally semi-structured to provide for flexibility for follow-up questions and also for changes according to the situation. Now, secondly, we have the group interview or the focus group interview. An interview done with a group of people is called a group interview. This type of interview is good for studying a full range of relevant ideas in a previously unknown or little known domain. It is also useful when data collection will be better through a group discussion than an individual interview. For instance, adolescents share similar experiences more openly in the presence of peers as against the presence of only an adult, that is the interviewer. Focus groups are also used to study the interaction among the group members. For instance, how children talk among themselves, what are the colloquial ways in which group members speak with one another. It is important that the focus group interview is carried out by a person who is good at facilitating open and dynamic dialogues within a group. The presence of an observer who either writes or records what goes on is significant. The group should not have more than 6 to 12 individuals. Now, on the basis of nature of questions asked in an interview, there are of two types: structured interviews and unstructured interviews. Now, interviews where the questions are predetermined and the nature of questions, sequence, wordings, etc. are standardized are called structured interviews. The questions are mostly close-ended. Since the emphasis is put on the specificity of form, these interviews are also called formal interviews. These interviews are easy to administer and provide greater uniformity and precision. Secondly, we have the unstructured interviews. Interviews where flexibility is provided in the number and order of questions are called unstructured interviews. The aim of the interview is to collect maximum information. There is freedom to adjust the questions according to the level of the respondents and the situation at hand. Since these interviews do not insist on a particular form, they are also called as informal interviews. Now, it is important to note that whatever interview type the researcher may choose, he or she needs to bear in mind that rapport building with the participants should always precede the interview. Now, let us discuss about what a schedule is. A schedule is a set of questions that are asked by the researcher and filled in by themselves. Unlike a questionnaire, a schedule provides an opportunity for the researcher to build a rapport with the respondents before asking them questions. Generally, researchers talk about schedule with reference to an interview schedule or observation schedule, but there are other types of schedules too. The different types of schedules. There are a number of schedules used in anthropological research. First, we have the observation schedule. These are designed to observe specific aspects of the situation under study, for instance, to reveal the patterns of either teacher or student behavior in promoting learning. They are generally used by a non-participant observer. Secondly, we have the rating schedules. It is used to find information about a set of predetermined attributes. It is sometimes used by the researcher and at times given to the respondents directly, and it is also called as rating scale. Now, evaluation schedules. This is generally used to collect data about institutions and agencies. They are predetermined categories on which the institute is evaluated. Next, we have the interview schedules. This contains questions that the researcher frames to ask during the interview. Space may be provided for writing down the responses of the interviewee, or the researcher may simply record the responses electronically. They help in gathering of the demographic data in research. Now let us discuss about textual analysis, or we say content analysis. A number of documents are found in the field which, when studied, provide valuable information. Underlying themes and patterns can be ascertained through the study of documents like mission statements, brochures of information, and manuals. Narratives or diary entries written by people working in a particular field can be reviewed. Textual analysis helps in providing rich insights into the beliefs, motivations, and dreams of a particular person or a group of people. Linguistic analysis of text can be used to decipher how meanings change over time. Analysis of curriculum frameworks and textbooks can be performed to see how the curriculum and meanings ascribed to a certain portion have changed with change in regimes. There are a number of ways by which content analysis can be done. Some computer software have been developed that ease the process of content analysis of large amount of data. Now let us summarize this module. This module on review of data collection methods provides an account of the different ways in which data can be collected in anthropological research. There are different types of data such as primary data, secondary data, qualitative data, and quantitative data. Different methods and techniques are used for collection of data in social research. Observation is a method in which data is collected through precise viewing of the phenomenon occurring in a social setting. Observations can be participant or non-participant in nature. Questionnaire is an important part of research. There are two kinds of questions in the questionnaire. It can be an open-ended and a closed-ended question. Open-ended questions are those questions that are not followed by any specific answer, while closed-ended questions are those questions that are followed by specific answers, and the respondents are expected to choose any one of the answers. A questionnaire can be structured, unstructured, semi-structured, or pictorial. The questionnaire should be self-explanatory. The print and the layout should be good. The items should be analytical, clear, short, and understandable. Questions that are threatening or embarrassing should be avoided. The reliability of a questionnaire is of great importance for the quality of the data collected. Now, interview is another tool which is used for data collection. It is defined as a conversation with a purpose. Interviews can be individual or focus group interviews. They can be structured, that is either formal interviews, or unstructured, that is informal interviews. Interviews where the questions are predetermined and the nature of questions, sequence, wordings, etc. are standardized are called structured or formal interviews. Interviews where flexibility is provided in the number and order of questions are called unstructured or informal interviews. Rapport building forms an essential part of the procedure prior to interviewing. Now, schedules are also used as tools for data collection. A schedule is a set of questions that are asked by the researcher and filled in by themselves. Unlike a questionnaire, a schedule provides an opportunity for the researcher to build a rapport with the respondents before asking them questions. There are different types of schedules like the observation schedule, the rating schedule, the evaluation schedule, and the interview schedule. Well, content analysis or textual analysis of official documents like manuals, mission statements, and personal documents like narratives, daily entries, they all form an important part of data collection, and all of this help to find out the underlying meanings and patterns in a social situation. That's all for this module. Thank you so much for listening.